Welcome, my friends, and thank you for joining me for this explainer. We have a truly important journey ahead of us today. We're going to take a deep dive into exactly how our brilliant minds and our physical bodies react to the heavy pressures of daily life. We're going to trace the entire journey of stress, starting from how we manage it in our everyday routines, all the way to understanding some very real mental health crises.
Okay, let's just dive right into our roadmap for today. First, understanding your stress. Second, looking at the causes and symptoms. Third, strategies for managing that stress. Then, we'll transition into recognizing clinical depression. And finally, we must discuss the reality of suicide.
So, starting with part 1, understanding your stress, the physical and psychological responses to daily life.
Now, we all know stress is just an unavoidable fact of life. Whether you're a student pulling all-nighters, a professional meeting deadlines, or even a soldier, you simply can't avoid it completely. But here is what we often forget: your mind and your body. They are one beautifully connected system. Your psychological health is literally just as critical to your overall well-being as your physical health. Take a look at these words from 2nd Lieutenant Gisela Mendonca. She's reflecting on her time deployed in a combat zone in Afghanistan. She talks about keeping a notebook with her at all times, writing down tasks so her mind can rest, and, maintaining communication with her family and friends to stay grounded. So think about it. If these very basic, everyday coping tools can help someone combat the fatigue and sheer fear of a war zone, they can absolutely help you manage your college exams, your workplace demands, or just the stress of your daily life.
It is also absolutely crucial to understand that your physical reaction to stress is almost entirely based on your perception. When you view a challenge positively, you experience what we call eustress. This is that good, focused energy that helps you rise to the occasion, like the adrenaline rush right before you give a big speech or play a big game. On the flip side, we have distress. This happens when you view a situation negatively, leaving you feeling completely overwhelmed, oppressed, and just out of control. It's fascinating because it's the exact same physiological energy in your body, but your perception dictates whether it is going to help you or harm you.
Let's move to part 2 and see how this builds. Causes and symptoms, why we stress out, and how the body actually reacts.
So we know what stress is, but what actually triggers these overwhelming feelings for us? According to the National Institute of Mental Health, the primary triggers usually fall into a few common categories. We stress out because of the unsettling effects of change. We stress when we feel like some outside force is threatening us, or, quite simply, when we feel we've lost personal control over our lives. For many of you watching right now, especially students, this is often triggered by increased academic demands or being on your own in a brand new environment for the very first time. Life events like going off to college, starting a new job, or big shifts in your relationships, they all have a massive impact on our sense of stability.
And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer scale of the problem. Unmanaged distress doesn't just stay in your head, it affects your entire physiological system. We aren't just talking about feeling a little worried here. Distress actually pumps up hormones like adrenaline, which affects literally everything from your metabolism to how you behave. You might start getting headaches or feeling severe fatigue. You might have sleep disturbances, maybe sleeping way too much or not sleeping at all. It brings on anxiety, irritability, high blood pressure, and even heart palpitations or disruptive eating patterns. And very often, it makes people withdraw completely and isolate themselves from the very people they love. Which brings us to section 3, strategies for managing stress. These are your practical tools to regain control.
Now, I really want you to feel empowered here. Yes, it is true that you cannot avoid stress entirely, but the great news is that you can absolutely minimize its harmful effects. You can manage it so it doesn't manage you. The source material gives us this fantastic, actionable, step-by-step methodology to build up your own personal toolkit. Number 1, set your priorities. Make a to-do list so your brain doesn't have to stress about remembering every little thing. Number 2, practice facing stressful moments. If public speaking terrifies you, rehearse it in a safe space with a trusted friend. Number 3, examine your expectations. Let go of perfectionism, my friends. Nobody is perfect. Number 4, live a healthy lifestyle. Move your body, eat well, and find some relaxation techniques like deep breathing. And number 5, learn to accept change. Nothing stays the same forever. Build a solid support system around you and just believe in your own potential.
Moving on to section 4, recognizing clinical depression. This is when stress becomes a medical reality.
Now, we are going to deliberately slow our pace for a moment here, because this is profoundly important. When a person has an ongoing inability to deal with their stress, it doesn't just magically disappear. Very often, it can escalate into a much more serious condition, clinical depression. Depression is a common mental illness that deeply affects a person's body, their mood, and their thoughts. It is not temporary, it lasts for weeks at a time, and the crucial point is that it is a real medical illness that demands medical treatment. It is absolutely not just a passing mood, and it is certainly no sign of personal weakness.
The National Institute of Mental Health clearly outlines these specific signs of major depression, and you'll notice how they kind of overlap with stress, but they are much deeper and much more persistent. We're talking about profound sadness, anxiety, or just this persistent empty feeling. Heavily decreased energy or fatigue, a complete loss of interest in the activities you usually love, noticeable appetite and weight changes, and very heavy feelings of hopelessness, guilt, or worthlessness. If or someone you love is experiencing 5 or more of these symptoms for over 2 weeks, that is the signal. It is time to seek out a mental health professional for a proper evaluation.
And if you are feeling this way, I want you to consider this staggering statistic: 30%. The National Mental Health Association reports that more than 30% of college freshmen report feeling overwhelmed a great deal of the time. To put that into perspective, that's nearly 1 in 3 students walking around campus right now carrying this heavy weight. You are absolutely not alone in this struggle.
But right next to that, there is another statistic that brings immense hope: 80%. According to the NIMH, 80% of those treated for depression begin to feel significantly better in just a few weeks. Think about that. Help is effective. Treatment really works. You simply need to take that brave first step to seek it out.
Section 5. The reality of suicide. Confronting the consequences of severe depression. We have to speak very honestly about this, because talking about suicide is what actually saves lives. Severe depression can manifest in thoughts of death. Back in the year 2000, the NIMH reported that suicide was actually the 3rd leading cause of death for ages 15 to 24. We simply cannot look away from this reality. Now, what's really interesting and crucial about this slide is that we need to tear down a dangerous myth. You might think, well, asking someone about suicide will somehow plant the idea in their head. Actually, scratch that, it is entirely false. The true fact is, most people who are thinking about suicide do not want to die. They just want help to stop the pain. Showing that you care enough to ask them directly might just offer them the immense comfort and the lifeline they have been praying for.
You need to know exactly what warning signs to look out for, both in yourself and in your loved ones. They include openly talking about suicide, making bold statements of deep hopelessness or helplessness, or a strange, sudden preoccupation with death. Sometimes, paradoxically, it looks like a person becoming suddenly much happier or calmer, which can happen when they have finally made a tragic decision. Or they might start setting their affairs in order, or just giving away their most prized possessions for no apparent reason. If you see these signs, you must take suicidal thoughts, impulses, or behaviors with the absolute utmost seriousness. Seek help immediately. Do not wait for tomorrow. Contact your student health center, a physician, a trusted advisor, or rush to a hospital emergency room. You can always call 1-800-SUICIDE. If you have to, call your local emergency services. Immediate life-saving help is always available to you.
We have traveled a long way today, from the everyday management of our stress all the way to understanding some very deep clinical realities. Remember, by learning to cope with your own stress and by recognizing the warning signs in the people around you, you are preparing yourself to help your entire community. So I want to leave you with this final thought, a question to put the power right back in your hands. Look closely at your own life. What is one cause of stress that you can eliminate today? Think on that, take some positive action, and please take very good care of yourselves.